Uh-oh.
Okay, we'll start with this. What appears to have been a verbal exchange between Floyd Mayweather's former protege and his current protege, Colonel. You know, a Twitter user that goes by the name Realist674 told Carmel Moton, "Bro, Tank really kicked you off of his card?" To which Carmel responded, "I've got something else coming up. Stay tuned." To which Gervonta responded, "Next time be a man of your own, little clown ass. Don't forget the reason why you're throwing up that ape shit."
It's a bit petty for Tank to remove him from his card, don't you think?
Well, yeah, but I think it was a bit petty of Floyd to call Gervonta a closet homosexual. And rest assured, if Gervonta is behaving the way that he is with Carmel, it has everything to do with Floyd and the fact that Floyd promotes him. It's a soap opera over there, is what it is. A lot of drama outside of the ring when we're all gathered here to see the drama inside of the ring. It's not a secret that Gervonta Davis is no longer promoted by Mayweather Promotions, but Carmel Moton is. And I guess that what Floyd wanted was for Carmel to continue to develop on Gervonta's undercard, and Gervonta would have none of it. You promote that kid somewhere else on somebody else's show, not mine. Which begs the question, how is Floyd supposed to do that? Mayweather Promotions don't have a broadcast partner. They don't have a broadcast deal. Their fighters were fighting primarily on the undercards of PBC shows. I mean, they fell under the PBC umbrella. Mayweather Promotions, in and of itself, didn't have a broadcast partner.
They still don't.
And with the PBC doing less and less shows this calendar year than they used to in previous years, that limits Floyd's opportunities to get his young fighter out there. A good number of Floyd's fighters have left. Several months ago, Richardson Hitchens, he left. More recently, Jaleel Hackett, Jahan Ingram.
They left.
Why, you ask?
They all said the same thing. Inactivity. They wanted to fight, and they were not being given enough opportunities to fight. There are some other details in there, but that's the gist of it.
They weren't keeping those guys active, keeping them busy, giving them enough opportunities to get out there and show their stuff. How can you develop a fighter without fight dates? How can you develop a fighter with no money coming in?
How?
Rumor has it Leonard Ellerbe is jumping ship. The CEO of Mayweather Promotions for many years now, he's leaving so that he can stay in the Gervonta Davis business.
Talked about that.
Thus, when you think of the current state at Mayweather Promotions, and that, you know, they still got Carmel Moton, I think they still have Rolly Romero, I think they do. How is Floyd supposed to get those fighters out there? Historically, I don't think he's been the type to micromanage these fighters. Leonard Ellerbe was his point man, but if he is now leaving, what's Floyd gonna do? What can he do for young Colonel?
It's Carmel.
Cotton Candy. Gervonta's not gonna let you develop him on his shows. PBC themselves, they don't appear to be doing very many shows this year.
It's a question that needs an answer.
They've only done two so far, about 6 months into this year, not counting next week's show, Gervonta Davis's fight.
That's 3 shows 6 months into the year. Just 3.
Half the year will have been gone, and they've only done 3 shows inside that time frame. Their presence in the sport is being felt less and less, because more of what people are talking about inside of the boxing community pertains to other fights involving other fighters that are with other promoters, not the PBC.
It's rough seas.
As it pertains to next weekend's box office fight, Gervonta Davis talked about his 14-month layoff, that this guy hasn't fought in over a year's time. It's been that long since the Ryan Garcia fight. Gervonta said, "Me being out of the ring for so long, I don't know how I'll feel going into the ring again. Every time you go up to a fight, you've got to always worry what somebody's going to do to you. You know how good you are, but it's still like, what can he bring to the table? Like, he might bring something crazy, or you might be off after
After that amount of time, he might be.
Is Frank Martin a potential banana skin for Gervonta Davis? Could we describe Frank as a cherry pick gone wrong, or one that could?
Wouldn't be the first time.
Frank Martin himself said, "I believe in myself. Even if the world is against me, I know the work that I put in. I feel like I was born to do this."
Here's reality.
Gervonta is not going to do with Frank Martin what he did last year with Ryan Garcia, so let's just get that out of the way. You are not going to sell over 1 million pay-per-view buys with this guy, because this guy doesn't have Ryan's social media presence, Ryan Garcia's social media following. You're not going to do over 1 million. You're not going to do 1 million. I'd be surprised if you do 500,000.
Be damn lucky.
They'll probably do all right at the gate, as historically, Gervonta does do good gates, but as far as pay-per-views, without Ryan, his numbers have always hovered at or around 200,000. And in this digital era,
Stealing a fight is pretty fucking easy.
streaming a fight via an illegal stream is becoming easier and easier to do, which could cut into the buy rate of this fight that no one was even asking for. That's what doesn't help the situation, that there was not a grassroots demand for this.
Piracy is always there.
But even with piracy, if it's a fight that people wanted, people were demanding, you can still make money and you can still do robust numbers. If it's a fight that people were demanding, and no one was demanding this.
Make it worse.
There is another show going head-to-head with this one that same night. The Matchroom show in Puerto Rico, where Subriel Matias is set to make his Matchroom debut. And that fight, unlike this one, is not a pay-per-view.
It's a cheaper alternative.
You don't have to pay $80 or whatever it is to see that one. And that's happening at the same time as your fight.
Don't lose your fight.
Davis versus Martin is a PBC fight between two PBC fighters. It's an in-house fight, is what it is. But it would be catastrophic for them if Gervonta Davis suffers a loss. It's not a transference of power. It's not a transference of marquee value. If Frank Martin goes in there and beats Tank,
He doesn't all of a sudden become a top draw or a top seller. It doesn't work like that. That could be a catastrophe for what remains of the PBC.
Gervonta is one of their flagship fighters.
They got a lot riding on him.
He loses? That's all bad for them. Even if Frank is their fighter, the mob is fickle, and they may like Gervonta Davis so long as he's fighting in these safe fights and winning them. But if he loses,
Worse if he gets knocked out.
it's the X factor. They've always kept Gervonta Davis in safe, manageable fights. So if they're putting him in there with Frank, it's because they view Frank as being safer than someone else, more manageable than someone else,
It's the only reason they would do it.
while turning their nose up at the rest of the division and the other champions that are there, like Denis Beranchyk and Shakur Stevenson, Vasyl Lomachenko. You ain't got no time for them, but you got time for him. And the only reason that you do is because you view him as being safer.
But is he?
One thing I'll give Frank is that he can punch. He is a strong puncher at lightweight, and he's a bona fide lightweight, a true lightweight.
He's solid.
He can punch, that is. He's not as battle-tested as some other lightweights, and he certainly doesn't have their profile. Frank is virtually unknown.
Like I said, Gervonta loses to this guy, it would be all bad for them.
What makes it a possibility is Gervonta has not fought in 14 months.
Can't afford to be asleep at the wheel.
North of lightweight, Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia complained about not being paid yet for their pay-per-view a few weeks ago, and what they're talking about is the upside of their pay-per-view, that money, because they already got their guarantees. To all of that, Golden Boy Promotions released an official statement that says, "As we have always done with all of our fighters, Golden Boy paid Ryan and Devin exactly what they are owed under their contracts. As with all pay-per-view events, revenue comes in over time, and additional payments will be made when more money is received. If they aren't aware of this fact, we would hope that their managers are, or perhaps Ryan and Devin, should pay more attention to their contracts than their social media feeds."
Seems a reasonable enough explanation.
Boxing insider Rachel Donaire, the wife and manager and trainer of Nonito Donaire, corroborated those statements, saying this has been a business standard when dealing with back-end money. The fighter signs for his guaranteed purse the night of the fight. The rest is a 60 to 90-day net. It's not just calculating what monies came in, but what got refunded due to service harvest down areas, etc., etc.
I think they said this thing did around 500,000 pay-per-view buys, which is a good number.
I guess that both boys were expecting to be paid by now, based on that, some portion of the upside revenue, the upside money. I think it's bad optics for Golden Boy. Bad optics because Devin's never complained about not being paid before, and he's worked with Matchroom. He's worked with Top Rank. This was the first time that he worked with Golden Boy, and now he's saying that he hasn't been paid. Ryan didn't complain about not being paid after the Gervonta Davis fight.
He's been on pay-per-view 2 times. The first time was with Gervonta, and this was the second. But this time, unlike the last time, it was a Golden Boy promotion show. And he's saying he hasn't been paid.
You know that it could be exactly the way Golden Boy Promotions and Rachel Donaire says it is. Rick Glacier said the same thing. You don't get all of that money up front, and you don't get all of that money right away. What you get right away is your guarantee. The rest comes in over time. That could be the situation, and these could be just 2 spoiled brats throwing their toys out of the pram, right? But it's bad optics because you've never seen Devin complain about not being paid before. And he's worked with practically everybody. Ryan wasn't complaining about not being paid after the Davis fight. But now he is. Canelo said that Oscar De La Hoya, he likes to steal money from the fighters. So it just doesn't look good that Golden Boy was captaining this ship. They were at the helm of promotion, and this is what the fighters are saying now. Ryan,
he got himself arrested.
Was arrested in California over the weekend due to vandalism after a hotel in Beverly Hills accused him of causing an estimated $15,000 worth of damages. Police have confirmed that Garcia was transferred to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center for evaluation and treatment after complaining of a medical issue.
Is this the mental health stuff again?
I don't actually believe Ryan has mental health issues. I just think he's an asshole. A young one. He's in those younger years where he thinks he's invincible and he'll live forever and he can't be touched.
Well, I just hit him with a felony.
In California, the way it works, any damages you cause in the neighborhood of $400 and up constitute a felony. Thus, he's got a felony case on his hands. So, you're still waiting for adjudication from the New York State Athletic Commission due to the banned substance they found in your system.
A potential suspension.
A potential defamation suit from NutraBio's Mark Glacier.
Because, you tried to pin the rap on them. You tried to say that the Osterin came from their supplements, so they're not taking that lying down.
And now this. Now, you're going in a hotel room, smashing up the place like a 90s hairband.
What the fuck is wrong with this guy?
I don't think it's mental health. I don't think he has a mental illness, because if he did, he would be on corresponding medication for said illness. It's very easy here today for any Tom, Dick, and Harry to say they have mental health issues, but what issues are they exactly?
What?
You're schizophrenic, you hear voices, you're bipolar.
It's not bilingual.
Yeah, Ryan is a Joe No Sabo. He don't speak no Spanish. And I don't think he's got no mental illness either. It's too easy for people to say that to get out of culpability for their own actions. I'm mentally ill. I've got problems.
What are they?
Because when you fight, you get out there and fight, you're medically cleared to fight. You are evaluated.
And you just fought.
It's not a case of mental illness. It's a case of a douchebag kid.
Immaturity is not a mental illness.
And if Ryan is anything, he's immature. The only pathology that I would associate with Ryan Garcia is that he's a pathological liar, but that's where the buck stops. And finally, in men's super lightweight news, Regis Prograis wants a crack at either Jack Caterrall or Subriel Matias' 140-pound crown. The 2-time super lightweight champion is on the comeback trail, looking to be a champion there for a 3rd time. Regis is ready to rebuild and revive his career to make a 3rd run at a junior welterweight title. Prograis will have to pick up the pieces again following a one-sided December defeat to WBC title holder Devin Haney. Rougarou Prograis is still a rock-solid contender at 140 pounds. A stacked division that features Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez, Isaac Cruz, Subriel Matias, Jose Ramirez, Jack Caterrall, Richardson Richens, Gary Antoine Russell, Rolly Romero, Sandor Martin, Dalton Smith, and former champion Prograis.
So after the Devin Haney fight late last year, a lot of people felt that Regis Prograis was getting up there in age. He lost a step, and Father Time had caught up to him.
That based on how he looked in his last 2 fights, it would seem that Regis is slipping. He's in decline. But I myself don't know that those 2 fights are the best examples of that, because what I saw was stylistically, he was in there with 2 guys whose base styles didn't do his no favors. In Danielito Zorrilla and Devin Haney, me, he was at a stylistic disadvantage, though at the same time, he is 35 years old. The southpaw slugger Prograis is still firmly planted in the middle of the pack. Every time someone fights at 140 pounds, the division is shifting, Prograis told Boxing Scene. They look bad, and then they look good. The cards keep shifting, but I am still in the mix. It's all about the bounce back. The greatest fighters have done it, which I plan on doing too. My goal is to become a 3-time world champion.
We'll see.
Give me a comeback fight, and let's get into them. I want to fight good fighters. I want the belts. Boxing is crazy, and sometimes you don't get the fights that you want.
Do you think he's slipping?
It's possible, but his last 2 fights aren't a good example of that because his last 2 fights were against 2 guys who were pure boxers, guys who were moving away from him, guys who...
For a counterpuncher, it's a nightmare.
Regis Prograis has always been a talented mid-range to inside counterpuncher, and if a guy tries to stand in front of him throwing punches and bunches, they're gonna pay for it. But if he has to chase the guy...
He's vulnerable.
And Teofimo Lopez, he's the same way. Prograis listed Dalton Smith, Jack Caterrall, and Subriel Matias as 3 of his next most viable options. All fighters are signed to Eddie Hearns' Matchroom Boxing, just like Prograis. Prograis first became a 140-pound title holder in 2019 when he stopped Kirill Rillick. However, he lost the belt in his following fight against Tosh Jaylor.
After 3 fights against middling opposition, Prograis once again realized his world title aspirations by knocking out Jose Zepeda in 2022 for what was the newly vacated WBC title.
Now, he's ready to follow his previous blueprint for a 3rd crack at a crown in a division he will one day retire in. I'm self-reflecting to get better, said Prograis, who recently released a book about his life. It makes no sense to risk your life if you don't want to get better. I'm about investing in myself. I have no doubt in my mind that I will be a world champion. Once again.
Can he do it?
Not targeting Dalton Smith or Jack Caterrall, he can't. Those are not world champions. The only guy that he mentioned that is a world champion is Subriel Matias. And when you think about where Dalton Smith is in his career, or where Jack Caterrall is in his.
Jack is in the middle of negotiating a fight with Golden Boy Promotions as Arnold Barboza. That's who he's talking to.
He's talking to that guy right now. So I don't know that Regis will get an opportunity to face him. The most viable opportunity to me seems to be Subriel Matias. If he wins his upcoming fight this weekend, that seems like the most viable option. The problem is Regis is coming right off a loss. He hasn't fought since the Devin Haney fight late last year.
Does he want to take a fight like that straight away?
Some say that Regis' age is showing, and his last 2 fights are the example, but it's not a good example for me because you could chalk up those 2 performances to bad stylistic matchups.
That's what they were.
When he fought Jose Zepeda, he didn't look like he was slipping. He didn't look like he was up there in age, and it's because stylistically, he had the advantage at that fight, whereas against the last 2 guys, he was at a disadvantage. So is it that he's slipping, or was it just a bad style matchup?
There's only one way to find out. He's got to get back out there. He's got to fight somebody.
If things don't work out between Jack Caterrall and Arnold Barboza, maybe he can fight him. Maybe he can fight Subriel Matias if he keeps his belt this upcoming weekend. There's only one way to know and one way to show that you've still got it.
You got to go in there and beat the shit out of somebody.
I mean, look, we're 6 months into this year. We're already at the midway point, and Regis hasn't rebounded yet. He's got to get back out there.
You got to get that guy a fight.